Okay, hi friends. So this is PK sir, and welcome to part 2 video of Syrian crisis. Uh, if there is anybody who is watching this video for the first time, I would rather advise you to see part 1, which is available in my channel, and then come to this particular video. Now stop it now and go to part 1, see it, and then come to this particular video, part 2. Those who already watched part 1, it's okay guys. I know you have been waiting for this particular video. Let's go with it. Now, before we start with the video, hi friends, this is PK sir, CA Prasanna Kumar, and welcome to my channel. And of course, it's a repetitive thing. Subscribe to my channel without fail if you have not subscribed. And most importantly, you please comment as well as share this particular video to your Facebook or any social media that you have got. I mean, an account. So that this will reach to more number of people. Thereby, they'll be aware of what's actually happening. So that would make this world and country a better place, right guys? Anyway, so let's start with the session. Okay, in part 1 video, this is where we have stopped. So I've shown you the crisis in Syria in terms of numbers. We have seen how many casualties since 2011, how many civilians were killed, how many children were killed, and how many refugees have fled from Syria to the neighboring countries like Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Iraq, and Egypt. Apart from this, they have spread to Europe as well, around 500,000. I'm not exact with the number. Right, guys? Now let's get to part 2. This is going to be really interesting, so buckle up. Now, so this is a beautiful, map which tells you who controls what. Okay, chalo. Now these are all the forces, Syrian government forces. So this dark, red or maroon, whatever it is, as you can see here, this is the area that is controlled by Syrian government. When I say Syrian government, it's obviously Shia-based government, that is Bashar al-Assad, right? And this is ISIL. ISIL is nothing but ISIS. It has got so many names. Islamic State of Iraq and Lebanon. So I mean Libya, and it has got so many names, right? So Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. So this is nothing but ISIS, and as you can see, this is the area, the black area, which is under the control of ISIS. And then you've got Kurdish forces, the yellow one here. They are controlling this part of Syria. So now you can see it has become khichdi, right? You see, just like a pizza, where people have just taken their portions of pizza. As you can see, this is controlled by Kurdish, and this by rebel forces. When I say rebel, I'm talking about Sunni-based sect. This is rebel, and this is the government. Are you able to get me? This is Israeli occupied Golan Heights, and this one is Turkey-backed, rebel forces, and this is Sunni-based rebel forces. This color. Are you able to get me? This color, right? As you can see, it's just like a pizza. How pathetic the situation is. Just understand, a country has been just like some mutton chops or something like that. It has been cut into pieces, and everybody has controlling their own area. So it's so bad. Just imagine the plight of the people over there. Very bad. Chalo. Okay, now as you can see here, so this also tells you that how many refugees are registered as well as awaiting registration, as you can see here. Okay, so this is the Syria, and I will see all the surrounding countries. You have Iraq, you have Jordan, Lebanon, you have got Turkey. All these refugees are moving out to all these surrounding countries apart from Europe as refugees, and some of them are registered, some of them are not registered. Very pathetic, very pathetic. Chalo. So this is where refugees seek asylum in Europe. Now as you can see, look at this, Germany. Sorry for that. Germany has received the maximum, you know, refugees, that is almost more than 2 lakhs, followed by Hungary, followed by Serbia and Kosovo, followed by Turkey, then Sweden, France, Italy, Austria, United Kingdom, and at last Switzerland. So all these guys have received, I mean, they have accepted the rebels, I mean, sorry, the refugees, right, guys? So this you remember because the first place goes to Germany. Germany has accepted maximum refugees, followed by Hungary, and followed by Serbia and Kosovo, followed by Turkey. Okay, chalo. These are all the statistics with regard to refugees asylum in Europe. Earlier, we have seen refugees asylum around the surrounding countries of Syria, that is Lebanon, Iraq, and all those things, right? Chalo. Now, various groups in Syria. These are all the groups in Syria. Nana. One group is this one, Al-Nusra Front. The other group is Free Syrian Army. Third group is National Coalition for Syrian Revolutionary and Opposition Forces. And the last one is Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. So that is ISIS, which you are very much aware of. So these are all the various groups in Syria. Apart from that, there are other groups also. But what I've given you in this particular slide is main groups. These are all the main groups in Syria. Okay, chalo. So look at the state of affairs in Syria. So this is group one. So Shia based president of Syria, that is Bashar al-Assad, and you have got Iran, support from Iran because they are also based on Shia sect, and finally you've got support from Russia as well. So this is one group. Of course, others like Hezbollah, etc. But these three are main. This is one group. Okay, there are so many groups that's fighting in Syria. This is one group. And moving on to group two, you have got rebel groups in Syria, that is obviously Sunni based sect, and then you have got support from USA and West. Okay, and of course Sunni based Saudi Arabia monarch kingdom, you have support from there as well. So this is group 2. So earlier you have seen group 1, and the other one is group 2 here, and last but not least another group, and of course that is ISIS. So as you can see, they have divided into 3 sects. One is group 1 backed by Russia, that is Shia group, and group 2 Sunni backed by US, and the third one is ISIS. Now, of course, ISIS says they are based on Sunnis only, but they say they are the real Sunnis. But of course, keeping those things aside, these are all the areas. As you can see, the boxes and this dark color over here, the red color or maroon color, whatever it is, these are all the areas that's under the control of ISIS. Anyway, chalo. So let's try to understand the recent news. What has happened? The recent news. USA President Donald Trump ordered a missile attack in Douma near Damascus. This was the videos that has become viral in Facebook, and everybody was sharing, that is with respect to this particular attack only. Okay, so President Donald Trump ordered a missile attack in Douma near Damascus, and of course they were supported by UK and France. They have joined hands with USA. What was the reason behind this attack? Because there was a chemical attack in Syria. Over 100 missiles have targeted 3 regime facilities, and the Pentagon, that is US Pentagon, has said that Syria's chemical weapons program has been gutted. Gutted means completely it has been collapsed and destroyed. Are you able to get me? So they say why they have attacked, because they wanted to destroy what? The chemical weapons program and the factories in Syria. Chalo. So just an idea of what are conventional methods. Okay, I mean sorry, conventional weapons. So you have sea and land mines, conventional weapons, shells, rockets, missiles, cluster bombs, incendiary weapons. What do you mean by incendiary weapons? Because the name will be a little bit new for you. Incendiary weapons means they are designed to start fires and heat. These weapons will ultimately start fires or destroy sensitive equipment using fire. It will also develop heat. So incendiary weapons or cause extreme pain and cruel injuries to both civilians as well as combatants. Okay, so they are very difficult to treat. So these weapons will be referred as incendiary weapons. And finally, blinding laser weapons as well. These are all the conventional weapons list. And moving on to the weapons of mass destruction, you've got 4 categories over here: nuclear, biological, chemical, radiological. Right, so now we are talking about chemical weapons. Okay, that is the context of discussion here. Right, guys? Chalo. What about the convention? Now there is convention called the Organization for Prevention of Chemical Weapons, OPCW. Actually, this organization has been established only to prevent what? Chemical weapons. So it implements the Chemical Weapons Convention. So the goal is to free the world from chemical weapons. Entered into force in 1997. It has got 192 member states. Then when there were chemical attacks that is happening in Syria, what this convention was doing? There is something called Organization for Prevention of Chemical Weapons. What these guys were doing? Because you have been entered into force since 1997 and you have got 192 member states. What you were doing? Having tea or something. So what was your problem? Why you were not involved to stop this chemical attacks in Syria by Syrian government, whoever it is, allegedly? Are you able to get me? So let's try to understand what was happening. So ultimately, there were 4 main goals of this OPCW, that is Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, right, or Prevention of Chemical Weapons. Anyway, destroying all chemical weapons under international verification, That is one main goal. Monitoring chemical industry to prevent re-emergence of new weapons. One is the existing weapons should be destroyed, and the other one is you want to prevent the new weapons, and the third one is you want to protect the state, the sovereign state, against that chemical threat. And fostering means encouraging international cooperation for implementing the convention. And organization for prohibition of chemical weapons, its headquarters is in the Hague is in western Netherlands. Okay, chalo. Did Syria sign the convention? Of course, it has joined the convention in 2013. The convention prohibits the production, possession, and use of chemical weapons. Even Syria knows that. And Syria was also subjected to additional duties contained in Security Council resolution, that is 2118, reinforcing these obligations and providing for the destruction of its chemical weapons stockpile. So ultimately, Syria was actually informed that you have to destroy your chemical weapon stockpile, and it indeed did that, right? The destruction of chemical weapons stockpile was achieved a year later by September 2014. That was the actual thing that has happened, which means Syria has actually destroyed it. Then what has happened? So let's understand what United Nations is doing, what United Nations Charter is saying. The United Nations Charter allows states to use force in self-defense. So you cannot be aggressor. Okay, you cannot be aggressor. You can only use force, any state, whether it is US or France or whoever it is, only in terms of self-defense, not as an aggressor. But actually what USA along with UK and France have done is they have been the aggressor, right? And let's try to understand what was the reason. It can also use force for the protection of populations threatened by the extermination at the hands of their own government. Are you able to get me? Which means, for example, if the population of Syria is facing extermination on the hands of their own government, that is Bashar al-Assad, then maybe you can use what force for the protection of population. Who can use force? Any state like US or France or UK. That's what the UN Charter says. The use of force for broader purposes of maintaining the international security is also possible. So if you want to maintain international security, even for that also you can use what? Force. However, such action of using force, this is the important point. Okay. However, such action of using force is subject to the requirement of mandate from the United Nations Security Council. So you need to draw power from here. So if you get a mandate from United Nations Security Council, only then you can use your force, provided if these are all the reasons. But ultimately, if you look at the example that has happened, where USA along with France and UK have attacked Syria, they have used force, and that was not subject to a mandate from United Nations Security Council. Then how can it use force without getting a mandate from United Nations Security Council? Let's try to understand. For that, first of all, you need to understand what is UNSC, United Nations Security Council. Now, this was actually formed by all the winners of World War II. When I say World War II winners, you've got Russia, you've got USA, you've got UK, you've got France, and even China is also there. Now, what is the speciality and power of this United Nations Security Council? Actually, India also should have been the member. That's what some of the historians' view is, unless Nehru has done a stupid thing. If that is not the case, India would have become, permanent member in United Nations Security Council. So all these people who have won the World War II, the countries who have won World War II, are permanent members of United Nations Security Council. What do you mean by permanent members? Permanent members. For example, USA, Russia, UK, France, China, all these have become permanent members of United Nations Security Council. Means they have got something called veto power. Now, what do you mean by veto power? For example, if all the countries of United Nations Security Council has done a voting saying that Kashmir should be part of China, Kashmir should be part of Pakistan. Then suppose if India has got permanent membership of United Nations Security Council, and if India is a permanent member, then what India can do is that it can veto. It can veto means it can use its veto power and it can vote against it. Even though there are some hundreds of countries who have voted in favor of it, if one country who has got the veto power, for example, let's presume that it is India. In fact, India has got no veto power, but just I'm trying to explain you the power of that veto. If India has got veto power and if it vetoes, then they can do nothing against that, even though it is just one vote which has been against it, and all the other guys are favoring. Although that will not happen, because most of the nations are in favor of the India, everybody knows that. So everybody is supporting India in case of Jammu and Kashmir. I'm just telling you, trying to explain you uh, in an imaginary situation to know the power of this veto. In fact, Russia, before that it was USSR, before it broke down into pieces and became Russia and some other countries. USSR was a great ally of our country, right? It was a great friend of us. So many a times Pakistan was troubling us, and USA and UK were supporting Pakistan. Most of the times at that time in United Nations Security Council, USSR, who was a friend of India, has used this veto to uh, you know uh, against so many decisions which were against the interest of India. So many times USSR has come to our rescue and vetoed certain nonsense things that has been happening in United Nations Security Council. So that's the power of veto. So now what's happening? You have USA, France, UK, all these are permanent, members in United Nations Security Council, and they were trying to vote against Bashar al-Assad. And what's happening to use force against that Syrian government? But what's happening is that Russia is using veto and it is going against it. Therefore, there is no mandate from United Nations Security Council. Therefore, USA said that anyway, if we wait for the mandate from United Nations Security Council, anyway Russia will veto it, and that's the reason, in the interest of the world, in the interest of the world peace, we were forced to attack Syria to destroy those chemical weapons. That was the statement given by US. I hope you are able to follow. Chalo. So what is being happened during the past 3 to 4 years? Since then, there are 40 recorded instances of chemical weapons used in Syria. You see? So there are two sides of the story. Just because by looking at the videos, there is no need to feel pity. Are you able to get me? There are certain things which are happening, which are wrong, which is not shown for us. So always looking at one side of the story and then showing pittiness doesn't make any sense. As you can see, there are 40 recorded instances of chemical weapons usage in Syria, which is very bad. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, which we have already seen, has got the ability to dispatch fact finding missions to determine whether such chemical weapons have been actually used or not. So, OPCW has got power to dispatch some teams to go into Syria to check whether really those chemical weapons has been used or not. A special joint mechanism was also set up by OPCW. So it's not that OPCW has not done anything. It has started doing something, and the Security Council, with a mandate to assign responsibility for such users. Of course, what has happened after the special joint mechanism pointed finger at Bashar al-Assad, Russia vetoed its renewal, which means Russia went against it. And as you can know, even if one country who has got a veto power, who are the permanent members of United Nations Security Council, goes against something, you can't do anything. Are you able to get me? That's a power of veto. So therefore, because Russia vetoed it, the special joint mechanism, which was set up by OPCW with the help of United Nations, has become nothing, just a dustbin. You got it? Chalo. So what is the contention of the three countries which actually launched missiles into Syria? The three countries, what are the three countries? USA, France, UK. So the three countries argue that there is no prospect of obtaining a mandate from United Nations Security Council to confront weapons used in Syria. Why? Because anyway Russia will what? Veto it, isn't it? So the three countries, they argue that there is no way that we are going to get a mandate from United Nations Security Council, because always anyway Russia will veto it, because if we go against Assad, Russia is going to veto us. And therefore, by striking Syria without getting any mandate from United Nations Security Council, the three countries, that is USA, France and UK, say they have fulfilled an international public order function of defending the credibility of prohibition of the use of chemical weapons. So this is how they have defended their launch of 100 missiles over that particular area in Syria. Are you able to get me? So ultimately, what is the present day reality? The Middle East in general and Syria in particular have become victims of renewed great power rivalry. So it is basically power rivalry between USA, UK, Saudi Arabia, and versus you have Shia-based Iran, Bashar al-Assad, okay, Bashar al-Assad and Russia. So it has become a power wall, power rivalry, power war, intensifying regional conflicts and breakdown of the internal political order. Are you able to get me? So breakdown of internal political order is there in many countries. So it is not only the Western powers, that is Russia, who is using military force to pursue their political objectives, but even the regional players like Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, Israel. Everybody is deeply involved in Syrians' brutal civil war, which is very bad. You see, everybody is looking at their own, profits in that particular. So it's like, you're trying to play on some dead bodies. You're trying to do business on some dead bodies, which is very bad. Russian resolution condemning the Western bombing of Syria got the support of only China and Bolivia, and it indicates the severe fault lines in the United Nations, which means it once again shows the ineffectiveness of the United Nations. We can say United Nations is literally dead. UN is literally dead. Even though it may sound harsh, but this is what, because literally United Nations was unable to solve this particular problem. As I've explained you, they have to give a mandate, and for getting a mandate all the permanent members of United Nations Security Council must accept it, but always Russia vetoes it, and therefore they cannot get a mandate, and they didn't even care for the mandate. Citing this particular reason, the US, France and UK, they just went and bombed. That's it. Although they have some valid reason on their part, but see, there is no control, right? Everybody is doing according to their own wish. Ultimately the people of Syria are becoming victims. So this is very bad, and unfortunately let's hope that this particular situation of unrest in Syria will go good, and let the world be in peace. Let's hope for that. Okay guys, so that's it. This is the total story of Syria. The part 2 is also finished. So I hope you have liked this particular video. So this is PK sir. I'm gonna sign off. But before I sign off, if you have liked this particular video and if you have liked my efforts in explaining you what's happening in Syria, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you have not subscribed. And moreover, comment. I know I'm irritating you, but this is very important. Comment and share. Don't forget to comment and share. So because my channel is just now it's growing, so I want it to reach to more people. In the interest of all, I want everybody to know what's happening. I want people to become more knowledgeable, so that the politicians and the news media channels cannot fool us like they're fooling us right now. So I hope you guys are with me. With all love, this is PK sir signing off.